So guys, we're ready to start the assembly process. And the first thing we want to do is fill the inner damper tube with oil. We need to stretch out the damper assembly fully, which this bottom tube here needs to be completely extended and bottomed out, okay? And we are to put in 7.1 ounces or 210 cubic centimeters or milliliters. And I've got a small little beaker here that we'll have to fill up a couple of times. But I want to caution you guys, see this hole, there's an opposite one on this side. You want to hold your fingers over there because as you pour the oil down in, if it accidentally coats the side of the tube, it will run out of those holes. So just a little forewarning. Okay, so that was 100. Okay. Okay, 200. And we need 10. And that's right down here. Just a little bit, and that's it. How good am I going to be on this? Oh, too much. Oh, perfect. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we'll take this out. And the directions call for, we want to raise the damper rod up and down, no more than 200 millimeters. That means the total length of the stroke. And we're going to go up and down several times, 1 to 3 times. And what we're doing is we're filling whatever is in here, the area. And I'm still going to put my fingers on these 2 holes so we don't get any blow by there. What we're doing is we're filling up in here, and I'm going to do this a bunch of times until I feel like that there's no more. You can kind of hear it and you can feel it, the oil getting sucked into all the areas that we need to. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now the directions say that we need to measure from the very top to the very bottom, and that dimension is between 145 and 148. And I remember from doing this the first time is that it is 145. I went with 145. So this is where we're going to use our, they show in here a syringe and a measuring rod, and that's to check the level and to suck out any oil that we need to 145 millimeters from the top. All right, so we have our measuring rod here, and you can see the numbers on there. What is that? That says 120, 130, 140, and 145 is right at that tick mark. And now we're just going to put a little bit of pressure. So now we're at 145, and we're going to at least stick this in and pull it out and see if there's any oil on it at all. There is a smidgen of oil on there. So let's see if we're going to get any to come out. Ever so slightly. So we're still within spec. Still within spec. Okay? So there you go. So that means that all the oil that needed to be sucked up into that reservoir or into that tube was done properly. Okay, so now what we want to do is fully tighten the lock nut damper fully tighten the lock nut onto the damper assembly. Okay, and that's down here. So there's a nut down here that's loose. What we're going to do is we're going to tighten that up there, just finger tight. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to wrench it down because you're going to have to adjust it later. So there, it's all the way in. All right, so now we're ready to install the valving here, and it's important that your dampening screw is backed out all the way, okay? And what you want to do is you want to count the clicks out so you know how many you had before, unless you have it written down somewhere. So that's what we did. We went ahead and backed that out. And before we install, I do want to check the bleeder valve or the bleeder screw here to make sure that the O-ring is in good shape and that it's not torn. And it does look in really good shape, so we're good to go there. So, okay, so now we have everything all backed out and we're ready to go. So it's important that you back it out. According to the directions, it says that you won't be able to get a proper dampening. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take this out here. Okay, so now this is going to be the fun part. This rod has to be completely out, okay, when you go to screw this in here. If it's not, they say you got to repeat all the steps that we just did. Okay, so, all right, Mr. Muscles here. Okay, maybe I need to wait. This is going to take a little bit of pressure because I can't use the ground as force. Okay. Any suggestions? Find a bigger boy. All right. I think I can do this. Oh, so close. All right. We can always put that in there. Maybe we can use it as leverage. You want to try? Do you want to try, Andrew?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Mr. Muscles here. Just don't. Don't push it over too far. I don't ever remember it being this hard. Okay. Okay.
I can do it.
All right, I'm gonna help hold this. Okay?
Okay.
Now go ahead. Okay, ready?
There we go.
No. Oh. Okay, ready? Okay, go all the way around. Okay, you ready? Okay, keep going, keep going.
It stopped.
It stopped?
But I don't want to cross thread it.
Okay. Okay. All right, pick up the camera.
I don't know if that was the spring forcing that I was cross threading.
Okay, guys. I don't know. Is that going to make the video? I don't know. It has to make the video?
Yeah.
All right. That was a lot tougher than I remember. Okay. So what we'll do is put this back in here. Okay, so now we need to tighten this up. Not too terribly tight. There we go. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it's good. Okay. And my tusk, this thing's a little finicky. Okay, that was unexpected, but we're giving you real world information. So, all right. So now that, okay, so we've tapped that, we've got it all screwed in. After filling, pump the assembly once slowly up and down more than 10 times to distribute the fork oil. Okay. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it was buttery smooth, I will tell you that, okay? All right, so the next step is, it says while protecting the damper assembly with a cloth and compressing fully, allow the excessive oil to overflow on the base valve side, okay? So basically what that means is you got some holes here, okay? And oil is going to come out of these holes when I fully depress it. And that basically sets everything, okay? So I have a towel on the ground here and it's already got oil on it, so it's more or less a throwaway. We've got plenty of them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push down very slowly, evenly, but I'm not pushing to the side. I'm pushing straight down because you do not want the rod to bend, okay? So go ahead and focus on that. And that is it. We made a mess. And that's all you do. You push down one time and it bleeds it out. And that should drain. Well, I guess all of it's pretty much drained out as much as it can be. That's what the directions say. It says the overflow measurement should be around 8 cubic centimeters. No way to measure that, but that's what the directions say. Okay, so now we just need to clean this up again, just a little bit for our sake, but all this is going to be covered in oil anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just more or less to keep it nice and clean while we're not making a mess anywhere. Okay, so this is 100% complete. So now let's go ahead and focus on the other fork tubes and putting the dust seal, the fork seal, and all the other pieces and parts together. All right, guys, we're ready to put the two tubes together, fork seals, and the bushings in. The first thing that I encourage you guys to do is to put this snap ring back on. We have forgotten this in the past, and it's always the last going, oh no, we forgot to do it. So the best way to do this is to get one side in first and to work it around. All right, there's the one side, and then we'll work this around. And there we go. So that's in, no worries. Okay, so we'll set that aside just for a second. Okay, now I'm going to use what they call the bullet. This is a fork seal saver. This goes over the top of the tube. And what it does is, if you guys remember when we took the seal off, there's this raceway that has two sharp edges on it. And what this does is this pushes down just past that. So when you put the fork seal on, it doesn't drag on that and potentially get ripped. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is put on the dust seal, And the directions say to lubricate the inside of this before you put it on. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a little bit of Yamaha race grease. Lithium soap-based grease is what they recommend. Okay, and this is, if you guys know where to find this, I can't find this anymore. It's not on any of the websites, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. So as you can see, that slipped on really nice. Then we're gonna do the snap ring. Okay, and now the fork seal. We're gonna wanna lubricate the inside of the fork seal as well. We're basically just wanting to put a coat of grease. This allows this to slide on easy, and it also lubricates the seal up against the tube. Okay, so we put a little bit there, and we'll make sure we get some on that right there. So now, again, the way that we're gonna put this on is this lip goes down. The words, there's words on here, you can see them. Those words go to the bottom. So this will slide over nice and easy. Perfect. So now there was no worry. Now we can take this off. Okay, if you remember the order, we're going to do the washer next. That slides down. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put on this bushing, and what we're going to do is we're going to take some fork oil. If I can get some on my finger. And what we're going to do is we're going to lightly coat the inside of this, basically pre-wetting this, putting oil on it. Okay, and we're going to slide that down. Not too far, because we don't need to go too far with it. And then we're going to do a little bit oil in this raceway. And this all gets soaked with oil anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, and then we're going to take this bushing and we're going to coat it with some oil, the outside and the inside. Just get it all nice and soaked. Okay. And then what we're going to do is use our fingers. We're going to spread it with our fingers. And then we're going to slide that on, and then it snaps. All right, so now we are ready for the assembly. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take some oil, and right in this tube, this little raceway right in here, this little flat spot right there, that's where that one bushing slides in. We want to lubricate that so it slides in easy and it's not difficult. We're also going to put a little bit on this because that's where the fork seal goes. Okay? All right, so now we're going to slide the inner tube into the outer tube, and that bushing there just slides down in. No need for the fork seal driver. Okay, so now we've got this bushing. Now this is where it helps if you're doing it horizontally like I am for the sake of the video. The cameraman is helping me do this. We're going to take our fork seal driver, and this is made by Tusk. It is a 48 millimeter, and because that's what the size of our fork is, of course. But if you guys have different forks, you would get a different fork seal diameter. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this around, and we're going to tap this in. Now, I'm going to hold the bottom tube here, and what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to tap this until it's solid, because it'll sound hollow for a while, and then it's solid, and that's what you want. Okay? Okay, so the next thing is going to be the washer. That really isn't going to need to be tapped in, but we'll go ahead and just, there we go, bottom it out. Well, it didn't take much. Okay, so now we're ready for the fork seal. And again, this is going to be, it's going to sound hollow for a little bit, and then and then it's going to sound solid. There we go. And that's how we do it. Okay, so now we got that in. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to check to make sure there's no binding, and there's no binding at all. Okay. All right, so now we're ready for the snap ring. Now, what you want to do, the trick is this, is to put one side in first and then start working it around the tube and just getting it there. See, now it's in the lip. And now what we can do is we can take the fork seal driver. Now, we're not going to slam this, but what we do is, there, boom. You hear the click? That just seats it into the track, no problems whatsoever. Okay? And now we can take the fork seal dust cover, and this is more or less just a press fit. We're just gonna press that into shape, into place, I mean. Okay, now it is all fully assembled and it's smooth and nice. Okay, so now we're ready to add some fluid and put the inner damper tube in. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to check the distance. We need 16 millimeters between the bottom of the nut here and the bottom of the damper tube. Okay, so I've got my caliper set here to 16 and it's just a skosh off. So we're gonna tighten that nut up just a little bit. I mean, it's ever so slightly, and there's your 16 millimeters, okay? Okay, so we're ready to put the inner tube in to the outer tube. What we want to do is we want to slide this back, and I have the spring here, which we really didn't talk about a whole lot. I did take a rag to it and clean it all up. It really wasn't dirty. There really isn't much to do with this. It's not rusting, there's no issues, it's not pitting, it's in great shape. So we're going to slide this down. Okay. Now we're ready to slide this into the tube. So we're going to screw this in just hand tight, and we're going to put something soft on the ground. Okay, so now we're back to installing the top cap. We're going to use our axle for leverage. We're going to use our tusk tool. We're going to push down and lock that into place. Okay. All right, so now we're going to insert the damper tube, or the push rod, I guess. And we're going to screw the cap on. Now, before we do that, you want to back this out again. Make sure you back the adjustment screw out all the way, counting the clicks that you want. We've already done that, okay? It's important, if you don't back that screw out, you're not going to get a good adjustment later. Okay, so that basically is now bottomed out. And we want to measure the distance between the cap, and you can see that that was supposed to be 1 millimeter and it is not. So what we have to do is we got to back this screw out, or the nut out, because we want a 1 millimeter gap between the top of this and the bottom of that. We got to go down just a little bit further. Okay, and we're going to check it. And you're basically about 1 millimeter right there. Okay, so that the book says the gap between this and this is 1 millimeter, half to 1 millimeter. Ours is about 1 millimeter. So now we're going to take our 15 millimeter wrench, and we have a torque wrench, and this socket size, I believe, is 17. And we're now going to hold this nut and we're going to screw this down. And you want to make sure that nut doesn't spin. You're spinning the top and not the bottom. Okay, so now that bottomed out, 21. Okay, there you go. So that is done. We go up slowly. Now the directions do say to put some thread lock on this, and that's what we're going to do. Okay. So we're just going to go around. Just a little bit. I don't think we need to go too crazy with it. There we go. So we got some thread lock on there. Okay. All right, so the torque spec on this bolt is 40 pounds. Now, to hold 40 pounds in your hand, like we were screwing it into the tube here, is okay for 20, maybe 15, but 40 pounds is a lot. So I got my larger torque wrench and we're using the axle as leverage. Okay, so now I can go ahead and tighten this 40 foot-pounds and have everything on the table and not having to exert a whole lot of force and still be able to obtain what we need. There we go. So I know it was another setup completely, but it definitely makes it easier in the long run. Okay guys, so the last step here is to fill the leg up with the correct amount of oil. So what we're going to do is now we're going to take this, we're going to loosen that here in a second. So what does the book say? The book says 335 cubic centimeters or 335 milliliters, which is what we have here. Now, if you guys have a better way of doing this, then more power to you, but I don't. This is what I'm using. So what we want to do, this is going to be a little tricky. It's probably why I'm using this little one. But you have to lean it over and you got to feed this oil in. And what I have found is that if you go up a little bit higher and be careful not to pour it into that hole just above it. But if you just nick the top of the tube, the oil kind of sucks in a little bit. Okay, that was complete. All right, so I'm showing you the way I do it. If you guys have one large container, then great. But I do not. So I'm giving you an alternative way to do this. Okay, that was 100. All right, 200. All right, 300 and 35, and I like to put my finger on the 35 mark. Oh, perfect, look at that. Did it a second time. Okay, that is it for fluids. I'm going to tighten this up. Take the wrench. Okay, and this doesn't have to be super tight because we're going to finish tightening this up on the bike. Okay, we're ready to install the fork leg. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide this up. And hopefully this should slide in. There we go. Now, if it didn't slide in that easy, you could have put a screwdriver in here and pried this open just a little bit. That usually is the trick. Okay, now what we want to do is, first of all, you want to orientate the adjuster screws and the bleeder screw to a way that you can get to the bleeder screw without too much problem, okay? And what I like to do is I like to put the bleeder screw to the front. That's just the way I like to do it, okay? So what we're gonna do, slide this up, and then you see there's a gap. The gap between the top, not the top of the bolt here, but the very lip to that is supposed to be 3 millimeters. And that pretty much is even with the other side. I did use calipers the last time, and we are perfect, okay? So now, again, we're only going to tighten up the bottom first. We're gonna tighten these down just a smidge. Okay, now this torque wrench is set for 15. And there's no reason why we couldn't torque these now, because there's no sense in leaving them go. And I go back and forth because it's a clamp. That's what a clamp does. It loosens the bolt on the other side. Okay, so that's ready to go. All right, so the next step is going to be tightening this up. And again, we're going to have to raise this up just a smidge and get this on there, okay? Now I'm going to use my force. We're going to turn the handlebars this way so we're up against the stop. In fact, probably what I'll do is give myself some better leverage here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give this my old man tight. Okay, so there you go. That's all you're going to need, because once you tighten this clamp up, it's going to clamp down on this and it's not going anywhere. Okay, so the last spot here is going to be tightening these up. And this is also 15 pounds. It's very important to respect these torque specs, because you're talking about a fork leg that's probably worth $600-700 a piece. All right, there you have it, all finished. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. We've got the fork seals cleaned, inspected, and just as I suspected, we did not need to use the new fork seals, so we can save those for another week. But everything is good to go. I'm probably going to work on the other fork just because, but I just wanted to show you guys this video because it has been a help to a lot of other people on some of the other videos that I've done. All the tools that we've used will be linked below in the description, from the grease to all the little pieces and parts, even to the Loctite. I did want to have a shout out. Here's something. I cannot find the Yamalube race grease online. And if you guys can find it, if you know where it's at, leave a comment below and I will pass along to everyone else. But when that's gone, I've got Maxima waterproof grease as a backup. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for the support. Click the like and subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell because there will be more videos on the YZ250FX. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.